Councilman Smalls, you're up.
Good evening, everyone, and I'll call to order the 363rd meeting of the City of Laurel Board of Appeals, meeting in regular session on Thursday, March 25th, 2001. The first item on the agenda is roll call. Ms. Quillen, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Whitley? Mrs. Les?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Collins?
Here.
Mrs. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. Smalls?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
And
have
let me
a quorum.
just say, thank you, Ms. Quillen, how much we appreciate the dedication of the members of this committee on vacation and still calling in and performing their civic duty. Don't let the warm weather and the temptation to perhaps be out doing something other than sitting inside. Based on our agenda this evening, we should move pretty briskly, Councilwoman Snyder, so you won't be tied down too long.
Thank you. That's very, very nice of you.
Thank you.
I don't feel sorry for her.
We don't, but we humor her on occasion.
Right, because we love her.
Moving on to agenda item 2, approval of the minutes of the February 25th, 2021 meeting. Committee members, I will entertain a motion if there are no additions or edits to the minutes.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Quillen, please call the roll.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Les?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is special exception application number 913, resolution number 21-05-BOA for 1706 Washington Boulevard, filed by Expert Auto and Tire Company, care of Ijaz, and hopefully I'm not mispronouncing that too badly, Rahman, seeking approval to establish and operate a general automotive repair shop. I've read the title into the record. Mr. Love, are you going to give the staff report?
Actually, Mr. Mitchum.
Okay.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair and fellow commission members. My name is Joshua Mitchum, ECD staff. I'll be reading the report for special exception number 913. Special exception 913 was filed on January 22nd, 2020 by Mr. Ijaz Rahman, seeking approval to establish and operate a general automotive repair shop at 706 Washington Boulevard, Laurel, Maryland. Under date January 28, 2021, a memorandum requesting comments was sent to the following city departments: the Department of Public Works, the City of Laurel Police Department, the Department of Parks and Recreation, and the Office of the Fire Marshal and Permit Services. Under date of January 29, 2021, the application and cover letter requesting comments were also sent to the following agencies: the Maryland State Highway Administration, Washington Suburban and Sanitary Commission, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland Department of Planning, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Verizon, and the Prince George's County Public Schools Department of Capital Programs. The following agency responses were received: The Prince George's County Health Department requests that the applicant should ensure that all sources of air pollution have been registered with the Maryland Department of the Environment, Air and Radiation Management Administration. Such sources include gasoline underground storage tanks, degreasing tanks, and paint spraying operations. Comments indicating no issues with the application were received from the Maryland State Highway Administration, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, and the Maryland Department of Planning. The following responses were received from city departments. The Department of Parks and Recreations has no issues with the project. The City of Laurel Police Department has no issues with the project. And the Office of the Fire Marshal and Permit Services sees no issue with the project as well. The Department of Public Works has the following comments. No improvements are improved in the city's public right-of-way at this time. The applicant will be responsible for any necessary permit and improvements if it is required by the state. If any utility cuts are being performed on a city street, the restoration work must follow the city standards that require the permanent patches in the cut area with a 2-inch mill cut and overlay from curb to curb in a minimum of 25 feet in each direction of the cut. The applicant is responsible for all damage within the public right-of-way. The scope of the restoration workshop will be determined by this department. All hazardous waste from the site, including antifreeze, tires, and various oils, etc., must be disposed of properly. And lastly, if refuse and recycling collection will be performed by this department, please contact them as soon as possible. On February 23rd, 2021, a letter explaining the nature of the application and advising of scheduled public hearings on the application before the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals was sent by certified mail to all contiguous property owners. 2 return receipts were received. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Board of Appeals dated March 10th, 2021 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on March 9th, 2021, the following action was taken on the zoning application. The commission, upon motion by Mr. Wilford, seconded by Mr. Kish, and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, voted to recommend approval of special exception application number 913 as presented in the technical staff report with the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all applicable City of Laurel building permits. The applicant shall obtain a City of Laurel use and occupancy permit. The applicant is responsible for obtaining the proper permit and approvals for all work done in the public right-of-way as stated in the technical staff report. And lastly, the applicant shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations for the protection and use of the property. The file contains a certificate of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised in the March 18th, 2021 issue of the Prince George's Post. The file contains an affidavit signed by the applicant attesting that a zoning sign had been placed on the subject property and has remained and shall remain until a decision is reached by the City of Laurel Board of Appeals. This concludes the reading of the file, Mr. Chairman, and the applicant, Mr. Ijaz Rahman, is online to take any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Committee members, are there any questions, first of all, for staff? Comments? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments for the applicant? Ms. Les?
No, no comment.
Okay, you're lit up there. I do have one comment. Maybe I'll make it more in the form of a request, but not a condition. To the applicant, the location, as all of us know, is along the city's city center. And I'd like to appeal to the applicant to consider some type of landscaping that is, potted plants, something to enhance the appearance. It's a pretty stark concrete parking lot area and that sort of thing. Maybe some planters or something like that. Being along Route 1 and being in a city center, it's certainly been the city's, in my experience, the city's interest to enhance that corridor as much as possible. So again, I'm not suggesting it as a condition, just appealing to the applicant to consider it. That's all I have. If there are no comments from the applicant and no further
Yes, you.
comments.
How are you, sir? Good
Yes, sir.
evening. My name is Ijaz Rahman. I'll definitely take that as a consideration. And for the beauty of the building and the surrounding atmosphere to the community, I'll definitely I'll definitely take care of that.
Okay, great. I hope I speak for the rest of the members of the committee that I think that would just go a long way enhancing the overall general appearance of the property.
I agree.
Yep.
If there are no further comments or questions, committee members, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept special exception application number 913, resolution number 21-05-BOA, 1706 Washington Boulevard.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Les. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Quillen. would you-
Correction to the
Yes.
address. The address should actually be 706, not 1706.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I need to
Thank you.
repeat that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say that.
So just, I make a motion that we accept the special exception application number 913, resolution number 21-05-BOA, 706 Washington Boulevard.
Second, do we need to second that again?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, I second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Quillen, call the roll, please.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Ms. Les,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Small,
I vote yes.
motion carries.
Thank you all. Mr. Rahman, I wish you the best, and I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to visit your establishment once you open.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you all of you for your time and effort to make that happen.
Thank you and lots of luck.
Thank you.
Committee members, is there any other business to come before the Board of Appeals? Hearing none, our meeting is.
Fred, can I?
Yes.
I'm new to this group, so bear with me. Because I do have a question, and I've been out of service now for quite a while, so maybe I just don't remember how it goes. But at the last meeting, we passed that everything at St. Mary's that they wanted to do, we passed that, correct?
Yes.
So now I hear that the Historic District Commission rejected it.
They tabled it till the next
Oh,
meeting.
okay. Okay, I heard they rejected it because this is what I don't understand. I would have thought it would have gone before them,
Yeah,
before
I would
it
have
came to
too.
us. That's
Mhm.
like what I don't understand.
So
You raise a good point because,
I thought we
Considering
were the
that-
last.
yeah, I
thought
was going to
we-
say, yeah.
So how did that get out of order if it is?
well, the way I'm sorry, this is Acting Director Love. The way we looked at that was, well, the applicant actually wasn't ready by the time for Historic District. At that point, they didn't have their facades and their some of the other things that were ready. That came a little bit later. And it was really between what would go first. The way we looked at this one was to bring it before Planning Commission and Board of Appeals first, because that was going to determine whether they could do it at all. And if they couldn't do it at all, we didn't see a need to go to HDC first, to go through all that and then to come back and not be able to do that and kind of go back and forth on everything. So that was our thought. We're reevaluating that to see if it makes sense to go to HDC first, but that was our thinking when that came in, was to make sure that in fact could, could the project even happen at all? So that's where we're
Right, right. Yeah,
Well,
When I was on the Historic District Commission, you know, that it came to us first and, you know, to go through all of these steps here, and now we're almost back to the beginning. So that was my question.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, no,
do we know what the problem is that they see with the, I know Mary Eileen said it was tabled to the next meeting, but do we know what their concern is?
their concern, they had a few concerns. It wasn't quite clear on the demolition. We split it into two for them, just to have the one project, and we pulled the demolition as its own, just in case one had to go and one maybe had to be thought about more by them. Demolition wasn't very clear. We're still trying to get some idea on that. The problem with some of the facade was they wanted to look more, a little more historic, maybe some more blended in features, something more that ties in with the school a little bit more. I know that was some of their comments, so they're looking at that. As far as the demolition, I think they were just concerned there weren't a lot of those types of houses yet. So we're still talking with the applicant. We may be pushing one here in April, and then the next one for the facade in May, once the applicant is able to take in some of the considerations of the HDC and work on it.
So that's probably not something that would stop them moving forward. It would just maybe change what they were going to do.
The only one right now that might, if there's something that can't be worked out with something with the demos, because the demos are very much tied in with in them being able to maintain a certain amount of green space and parking. So those items are being worked through right now, and we'll see by the next meeting. But no, that's kind of where we're at with that.
Well,
Robert,
how will that work in the future, you know, for different things?
That's what we'll look at in the future to determine should one go before the other. I think there really was, unfortunately, there wasn't any sort of perfect way to do it, because if one goes forward and then the other one says no, then you have to go back to the previous, you kind of got to switch around there's really no great way to do it. Unfortunately, right now we are reevaluating that. Our thoughts, like I said before with this one, just making sure that the project could even happen, and then working through HEC to see what maybe changes they may want to make. But we'll look at that in the future to see maybe if one should go before the other.
Robert, let me just sort of chime in here, because I do agree with Ms. Snyder in that the order of this just for that applicant just seemed to be off. And the reason I raise it is because if there had been any comments coming from the HDC, they should have been available to this body to consider before rendering our decision to either move forward or not move forward, because that seems to me to potentially have been information that would have, borne some consideration by the Board of Appeals. And it's always seemed to me that the order of consideration would be Planning Commission, any other bodies, whether it's Tree Board, whether it's HDC, whether it's any other body, before it gets to the Board of Appeals, because the Board of Appeals in its capacity acts as the decision maker to a degree.
Exactly.
So not going before, after the Board of Appeals makes its consideration, going to another committee. That just seems to be the proper order in my mind. So I think it bears some discussion, and I think it bears some discussion with this body. I'm curious as to any discussions to be had about the order. Who would those discussions be made with?
I mean, that would be made with us. How we're looking to move that.
Just
forward.
internally with staff?
Yes, yeah. Well, they'll be internally with staff. Like I said, this was kind of a unique one based off the readiness of the applicant and just kind of the size of the project. So we can we'll look to that in the future, and we'll make note of it.
Yeah, because Robert, I don't think you gained anything
Right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll look at that in the future. Thank you very much for your comments.
Sorry
We
to be
definitely
the
take those into
troublemaker.
consideration. No, you're fine. No, please. We do. We take everybody's suggestions. Please, no, that's definitely welcomed. And like I said, we'll be considering that in the future.
Well, as a
Thank you.
member of this committee, I would be extremely interested in having every one of us on the Board of Appeals at least be privy to the discussions that are had, you know, whether that's in the form of a memo as to what was discussed and what was determined. And I think honestly, and giving the board an opportunity to kind of weigh in pro or con regarding the decision that's reached by staff, because it just seems to be just out of kilter. That particular application. Now, whether or not,
Right.
you know, that's followed in others in the future. But if there's an order defined now, so to speak, then this kind of confusion may not happen again. That's my 2 cents.
Well, what's being demolished that they have concerns about?
There's the 220, and then the duplex at 222, 224. The church or the school, them, they own that property. It's uninhabited right now.
So I don't understand what the problem with it would be if they're uninhabited. I mean, it's probably an eyesore. I don't understand what the concern is about them being demolished. That's just my thought. And I have to say, I think the steps that we took were proper. I don't understand the concern about empty buildings that haven't, vacant buildings being demolished for the use of Palladium. It's going to be put to good use for the children to use. I mean, it's for the school to use. I think that's good use. I would much rather have that personally than I would be looking at vacant buildings. Whether I don't care how old they are. I mean, nobody's going to restore them. They're just sitting there. They're going to just deteriorate even more. It's just my thought.
It would be interesting, Robert, if once the minutes are available from the HDC's meeting, perhaps for us to have a look at it, since we do have a vested interest and we did weigh in based on the information we had at the time. And to sort of have, you made an effort to explain to us what happens because this matter has been tabled. You kind of faded in and out, so I couldn't hear everything you said. But the process, and I think Marlene was the one who asked the question, what happens now? I mean, in other words, when it comes back before the HDC, does the HDC sort of trump what this committee has voted on? Yeah, it draws into question, at least in my mind, a few things. So I'd be interested in.
And also, if we're dealing with a property or that's going to be in the HDC, before it gets to the board, we should have their approval, or it doesn't get to the board until that gets straightened out. Does that make sense?
To answer a couple things, if let's say the HCC decides to deny it, it actually would go. The applicant has the ability to go to the Board of Appeals to appeal that decision. So they would have that opportunity. So that's where it would go. And then to answer as far as the HCC brought up, or a member had asked that maybe, let's say, like in this situation, they didn't have they didn't have their facades ready by the time they were coming to see the planning commission, the Board of Appeals. So excuse me one moment. Apologies, I had a 4-year-old come in and ask me a question.
We've all experienced it.
Thanks, Colin. Sorry about that. So they had suggested that if they didn't, maybe if they could get a, I could just bring it up, maybe not formally, but bring it up at an HTC meeting, you know, anything preliminary on what they're looking to do to get suggestions. So that was another item that they had thought of, if, say, the applicant was not fully ready to go before the HTC. Maybe we can go as an kind of an other business out there and say, this is what they're looking, what you might be looking for, and they can make their some suggestions on that. So that was another way to look at it. If, like you said, in this unique case where they were not ready to go to the HTC, but were ready to go before the Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission. So we're taking that into consideration.
I'm going to make one other statement, then I'm going to shut up. But by any general interpretation, the name of this committee as Board of Appeals says we're the body that any applicant or anyone who has a matter to bring forward appeals decisions of any lower body, if you want to, you know, define it in that manner. So it just seems that all those other committees that would have a say in an applicant's project would have their say, and then the Board of Appeals takes collectively all of that information in helping to make its decisions.
Thank you. We'll look at that in the future.
Okay. Well, we'll await any conversations that come up in that regard. And Rob, we appreciate it. Anything else, committee members?
Nope.
Okay, we'll enjoy the sunshine, Gail. We'll enjoy it tomorrow and over the weekend here.
I'll be back in the car on Saturday heading north.
Okay.
You have nice sunshine here waiting for you.
Yes, we will.
Okay, good.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right.
You as well.
Thank you.